Is tonight, Nigeria's President Tinubu to attend burial of slain soldiers in Delta State. Army frees over 300 detainees cleared of ties with Boko Haram. Nigeria's Monetary Policy Committee raises interest rates to 24.75%. Senegalese want radical change after newcomer Faye wins. It's good to have you join us. I am Felicity Ezewuike. Let's begin tonight by telling you that the burial ceremony of 17 Army personnel killed in Okwama Community, Delta State, southern Nigeria, has been scheduled for Wednesday. Army spokesperson Major General Oyema Nwachukwu announced this in a statement on Tuesday. He said President Bola Tinubu would be the special guest of honor at the event. According to Nwachukwu, the remains of the personnel would be laid to rest at about 3 p.m. at the National Cemetery, Abuja. Meanwhile, some leaders of the Niger Delta have pleaded with President Tinubu to allow the people of Okwama, who fled their homes about 12 days ago following the siege to the community by the Nigerian army over the killing of 17 soldiers, to return home and pick the pieces of their lives. And to one of our headline stories, the Nigerian army has released over 300 individuals who have been detained at Giwa Barracks in Borno State for suspected links with Boko Haram insurgents. News Center's correspondent Umaru Kirawa reports that the suspects were cleared of any connection to Boko Haram after years of investigation. The military said to have handed over the detainees, including men, women, and children, to the Borno State government for proper reintegration into the society. Also in the news, the British High Commissioner to Nigeria is seeking to strengthen the partnership between Britain and Plateau State, and by extension Nigeria, for greater ties. Richard Montgomery was speaking when he paid a courtesy call on the governor of Plateau State at the government house in Jos, north central Nigeria. News Center's Chizoba Anyowe tells us more.
It is the High Commissioner's first visit on the plateau. He is in the state to pledge the support of the British government to the state in the areas of science and technology, agriculture, education, and security. The High Commissioner noted the recurring records of violent attacks in some parts of the state in recent time.
We do hope by coming and showing our respect and coming and meeting many members of civil society as well as government, that we can signal our support for those who want to have dialogue, to build peace, to build understanding between people with different interests and communities and identities. And we do, I hope, Your Excellency, have a chance to talk later about how we can ensure peace and stability across not just Plateau but other parts of Nigeria.
The state governor's commitment to addressing security in the state by improving areas such as education was highlighted again.
We are out, we're determined to better the lots of our people. And the only way you can better the lots of our people is by making sure that you provide good governance and you have the necessary linkages with partners that can also add value to what you are doing. And I believe that this is what the British government brings to us.
With Nigeria aiming to become the largest economy in Africa and third largest in the world by 2050, there is every need for a great civil-military relations in the country. How soon this partnership would commence and how sustainable it will be remain the concerns of stakeholders. The governor later decorated the ambassador in a Plateau local attire to sign off on the acceptance and hospitality. In Jos for News Central, Chizoba Anyowe.
To successfully realize the visions and projects for any government, there must be proper budgeting, financing and implementation. The unavailability of funds to finance any budget will naturally make the budget useless. In this report, News Center's Ezewuike examines the 2024 Abia State budget and the sources of financing.
2024 Abia State Appropriation Bill of 567.2 billion naira. It was stated that the budget will be funded through federal allocations, internally generated revenue, as well as domestic and foreign borrowings. The state government has already embarked on some capital projects, which, according to Governor Alex Otti, would be funded by about 85% loans. The state's internally generated revenue as of December 2023 was around 23 billion naira. Although traders in the state are still enjoying tax holidays since the present government came on board, the monthly internally generated revenue is now put at 2 billion naira.
Now that we had given our people that reprieve, that initial reprieve, to enable them recover from the pains of years of suffering and exploitation and intimidation, we have gradually started the process of collecting taxes. But in the next few months, we begin to define our position to become clearer.
The magnitude of projects embarked upon by the state government, suggesting Wosu, a chartered accountant, says borrowing is inevitable.
You need to now, when you look at your data, and you find that those other sources of income are not able to carry out those projects and the things you have. The resources are not there to be able to do it. So what you do is you go take the other option of borrowing. And borrowing sometimes is good, but sometimes it is misplaced. For instance, if you borrow for a current expenditure, it's a waste. But if you borrow for capital projects, then it's like setting up something that is enduring.
He's a financial person, so he understands the application and utilization of loans. So we're not careless about it, and whatever we are taking, we're going to ensure that it is properly utilized for the development of the state.
He also said government needs to state repayment plans in the budget to create a clear understanding for successive governments.
So something must be done. The payment must be made. The proper provision will have to be made in the budget to service those debts.
The masses would not complain about loans if at the end of the day, the government is able to account for the money borrowed by tying them to people-oriented projects. In Omaha News Central, Ezewuike.
Many thanks, Ezewuike. We'll go on a short break now. When we come back, we have more stories. Just stay with us. Earlier, we told you that the Nigerian army has released over 300 individuals who had been detained in Borno State for suspected links to Boko Haram. We're going to discuss that now with the help of the Executive Director, Alamin Foundation for Peace and Development, Hamsatu Alamin. Thank you very much, Hamsatu, for giving us your time. There has been scenarios in history where people go undercover and act contrary to their real purpose until the time is right. Over 200 people fled after the army said they've established that they are no longer terrorists. Is it truly possible to establish this 100%? Or would you say we're taking a risk with this?
Thank you very much for having me. Can you repeat your question, please? It wasn't very clear.
Okay, the release of these persons, I was trying to paint a scenario that some people go undercover. We've had history of people going undercover until the time is right for them. And then these persons are being released. The army said they've cleared them after years of investigation. So I'm trying to find out from you, it is truly possible, is it truly possible to establish that these people are innocent 100%? Aren't we taking a risk, perhaps?
Okay, thank you very much for having me. Now I heard you clearly. Really, it is a very, very difficult situation. In a situation where you keep human beings under bar for a period of over 8 years and above. because most of them who are released today, in fact, have stayed behind bars in this detention facility for over 7 years, some of them up to 8 years. It is a joint investigation center where, in fact, a committee sits down and then goes through the cases of these people and then to ascertain whether they are innocent or culpable of any of the accusation made against them. Then in a situation where you cannot establish any fact, in fact, the right thing to do is to release them. Nobody is quarreling about maybe somebody who is culpable is released. But in fact, there is a saying that states, in fact, to incarcerate an innocent person, one innocent person, is better than to release, in fact, 10 culpable ones.
Yeah, I think we get the
So therefore, in a situation where you cannot find any evidence, I think what the Nigerian military did today is the best thing to do, that is to release after satisfying itself that there is no issue to convict them or then hold against them. So the best thing is to release them, I think.
All right, we understand that they have been handed over to the state government through the Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development for reintegration. Yes. The question I want to ask, are they now wards of the state, or is there a time frame for this reintegration and letting them get back to society?
Yes, in fact, well, you know, somebody who has stayed this long in the detention facility, whether innocent or culpable, so long as you cannot establish anything against him, the issue of trauma is there, even if they are innocent. Even to the innocent part, the issue of trauma and then psychological distress is there. So therefore, the Borno State, we were living witnesses. We were around when they were released to the Commissioner of Women Affairs. In fact, there were 331 of them. And then the ministry has now taken them to the Impact Transit Rehabilitation Center, where they will profile them. After profiling them, then they will do is it the relation tracing, so that if they and then they hand them over to them. So therefore, in the process, while they do all this, they are taken through. In fact, we have gone to see the detention facility in the Ministry of Women Affairs, where there are several professionals, in fact, who sit one with these people, so that in fact, to demystify some of these, if there is anything in them, and then if there is nothing, also the issue, they are healed of the traumas and then the psychological distresses, and then they are stabilized so that they are handed back to their members of their communities or their relations.
All right, Nsatu, I understand you were part of the committee that reviewed these suspects and, you know, released, were part of their release. Just so we don't have the similar situation where in Kuriga, it was said that there were over 200, close to 300, and then when these children were released, there were about 137. So can you confirm for us the exact figure of individuals that were released?
I am not part of any. You know, I am just a civil society activist in the poll. I was not part of the committee that screened or part of the release, but what I did actually, I am as a civil society activist, I just fight for the rights of innocent people and then also to protect the government as well, and then my people too. So therefore, what I tell the government or the Nigerian military is screen them, profile them. If you find them wanting, prosecute them, and then let the law take the appropriate measures against them. And while they are certified innocent, then release them. And then where there are no evidences whatever, in fact, the period of time they have been in behind bars is honestly enough a punishment for anybody. In fact, an innocent person kept behind bars for over 8 years. I think the only justice that can be made, and then as a peace builder, is to propagate for their safe release back to the society, so that the society member knows them. We work with traditional rulers, with our community leaders, with religious leaders, with youth in the societies. The youth vigilantes are there who know, in fact, who is culpable, who is bad. In fact, we know the bad, the ugly, and the good, the bad, and the ugly in every society. In fact, through these mechanisms that are in place. So the society has enough impact. So what we do is to propagate not on the side of the detainees, but then in fact on both sides. We are on both sides. We are protecting the government. We are protecting our people as well as
first, let me apologize for the mix-up, and thank you for your time and the insights you've provided.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much for having us.
Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has increased the monetary policy rate by 200 basis points to 24.75% from 22.75% to address escalating inflation. Governor Olayemi Cardoso announced the decision at the 294th meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee press briefing in Abuja. This marks a 2% surge from the previous rate set a month earlier, constituting the second hike under the current committee's tenure. The CBN governor had mentioned the exchange rate, adding that the Apex Bank would ensure that the market remains flexible.
I believe that we are on the right course, and of course, one particular area of cheer as a result of the actions we have taken is the moderation in the foreign exchange rate, which you have seen. Now, don't take the foreign exchange in isolation, because it does have major pass-through to inflation. And to the extent that we've seen this happen, and we expect it will continue to moderate, we are confident that these tools and measures that the central bank is using will ensure that, the inflationary spiral will gradually be brought under stricter control.
To discuss this, I'm joined by Chief Economist, SPM Professionals, Paul Alaje. Thank you very much, Paul, for giving us your time. A 200 basis point just about a month after an initial 400 basis points increase. How did that come to you? Did you expect it? Paul, you need to unmute. We can't hear you.
Thank you so very much for having me. Thank you so very much for having me. I must say that first, it came as a surprise. Having had 400 basis point increase in interest rates, no one would expect that the Central Bank of Nigeria and indeed the Monetary Policy Committee would increase MPR by another 200 basis points and further adjusting asymmetric corridor as well as the cash reserve ratio or cash reserve requirement, as the case may be. The implication of this is that one, Central Bank and the MPC have sent indicator to Nigeria and indeed the rest of the world that the core mandate of the Central Bank is combating inflation as evident in price stability, and they will do everything to ensure they bring inflation down. Now, for every economic decision, there seems to be consequences. The immediate consequence you would see in bringing down inflation will be one, you are going to see that this will crowd out investment, and it may also have tremendous negative impact on those who have borrowed money already or anyone who may want to borrow from bank for the purpose of business. Implication, it will crowd out employment. I was not surprised when the Bureau of Statistics released the last figure of the unemployment and reviewed the unemployment has significantly increased by an additional 20% of what it was, or 4% now to 5%, and still growing beyond. Implication is, yes, Central Bank is saying we're alone on this. We're going to find our battle alone. We'll make sure we combat inflation and bring it down. So you're going to see some investment, foreign direct investment, especially, and I need you to underline this, especially in the portfolio market. So you see some foreign direct investment coming to Nigeria, going into buying bonds, bills, treasury bill and bonds, and maybe going into stock market. Again, it's also expected that Nigeria stock market, we have our own fair share of losses as the debt market continue to become more lucrative for people with little or no risk. So it's a decision that has been made. If the other way would have cautioned the authorities to exercise patience in going all aggressive. And the question is, what brought us here in the first instance when it comes to inflation? I think what brought us here when it comes to inflation is the sporadic devaluation of Naira that was not properly thought through
before it was devalued. Before Naira was devalued, 15th of June, exchange rate parallel market was 830. At official rate, it was 420. Subsidy is gone on one hand, which of course changed reality and the economic life of many Nigerians. That was May 29, coupled with 15th of June, where Naira was badly devalued. Today, we are seeing that the central bank that took a hand off the market is now coming back to the market, supporting the BDC, and this is what we have
but in this instance, the CBN is saying that
you have a lot to do with as individual.
The CBN sees it as a trade-off, and they are maintaining that its core mandate comes first. What do you make of the CBN stance?
CBN never said anything that is wrong. It's a trade-off, but in economics, and this is why you see you need to read economics beyond first degree. You need to study economics to advanced level of knowledge, because basic economics, elementary economics, we say is a trade-off. Once you increase interest rates, it may likely have impact. Now, at advanced level, we now need to measure. We need to measure how much of the economy, overall economy, will this affect. Again, if we continue to increase interest rates, it may hamper GDP growth. When it hampers GDP growth, it may now be counterproductive to inflation. So rather than inflation taming, it may even increase. And that is why we think that economic theorists must understand that classical approach has its limits. As Keynesian school has written and published a lot of books to say there are limits to classical approach or classical economic approach has been adopted, especially by the monetary economists in Nigeria today.
All right, let's look at the asymmetric corridor and cash reserve ratio of merchant banks, which were adjusted. What is the implication of these decisions, and what do they portend for the people?
Well, first, you are going to see that merchant bank, we have also joined their commercial counterpart. They are going to now give more of their reserve to the Central Bank of Nigeria. That means the ability to lend, including the asymmetric corridor, is also going to be affected. What that means is, by all means, liquidity in the system will significantly be stifled. And when liquidity is stifled in the system, Central Bank on one hand, we say it's achieving our aim. And what is the aim? The aim is to control money supply. On the second hand, the retail sector will also suffer. We now need to answer this question. Do we continue to use monetary tools to combat inflation, which is primary method of combating inflation, or should we consider what exactly it has led or has induced inflation? And I can tell you, the Bureau of Statistics report revealed that it's that report that Central Bank relies on. So the Bureau of Statistics revealed that when it comes to inflation, food inflation has more potency in Nigerian inflation today. So when you mop up money from circulation and you are not producing, your supply side is lean, then what does that mean? I can tell you, America has been faced with that kind of problem, not just only in America, even Germany and the rest of Europe have been faced the kind of problem Nigeria is faced with today. They understood, they tried some of this method of increasing interest rates, using classical approach, but they all failed. Even when it appears that the economy is adjusting, they all failed. What should we be doing? We must understand that our real problem lies on supply side. How do we boost our grain production from current less than 300,000 metric tons a year to about 1 million metric tons a year? This is what we consume. We need to boost output. We need to improve productivity. We need to boost exports. If we don't do all of these, at best, all our methods will be interventionist in summary.
Paul, thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Away from that, let's tell you that the leadership of the Labour Party said it would rescind the decision to hold its contentious national convention on Wednesday as planned. The development comes 2 days after the party formally petitioned relevant government institutions, requesting an urgent intervention to protect the party against further aggression from the Nigeria Labour Congress. In the 4 separate letters reaching to the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, Ministry of Labour and Employment, and Registrar of Trade Unions, the party also called for disciplinary action to be taken against the NLC President, Joe Ajaero, and other union leaders who spearheaded the alleged vandalization of its properties. To discuss this, I'm joined by Abayomi Arabambi, Factional National Publicity Secretary, Labour Party. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, and good evening, Nigerians. Thank you for having me.
Let's start from the very basic for the layman who might have questions. Help us understand, what is the business or relationship between a political party and a labor union, so much so that interventions are being sought?
But thank you very much. Just like in a company alignment, when you register a company, definitely it will now fall under the company alignment, that's the CAC, and the operation will have to be independent of you that registered the company. NLC have been coming forward recently to say, oh, they own Labour Party. They didn't own Labour Party. Yeah, they come together then, with other stakeholders, okay, let us form a political party. And the party now become an independent body. Just like when you form a company, we have our constitution, they also have their own. But what they are trying to do was just, as a medicine interloper, or like, someone asking, Satan to come and prepare supper for our Lord Jesus Christ. It's not going to be possible because they are not financial member, number one. In our constitution, there is no place that gave them the right to administer Labour Party. In their constitution, there is no section that gave them the power to administer Labour Party. So where all this, their political hierarchy is coming from, is still a mystery, but I want to assure you, they are not going to have their way, in the end, because they've been fighting us in 2014. And up to today, I think what happened to them then will also continue to happen to them now, because there is no constitutional provision for them to do what they are asking Labour Party to give them.
You're giving us assurances, but the NLC spokesman, I'll come back to questions about conventions because that's the whole point of this argument. The spokesperson, Benson Opa, said Abure would not dare the Congress by going ahead with the planned convention. What would be the likely implication? Is this dare something that the LP takes seriously?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, let me educate the NLC. It's unfortunate that together they are now at the dagger down with Abure, because that been issue before now. They have been talking about some forgery, perjury against Abure, which is not new. And this was the thing we took to court upon which Abure was restrained. And then they said we are being sponsored by the APC, our allegations are fraudulent, and no court of competent jurisdiction has ever found Abure guilty. Therefore, Abure should continue to disrespect the order of the FCTI court. But the story has changed now because we are a little bit disappointed that when you have the obedient, the Peter Obi, the NLC, some other trade union leaders who have been advocating on a lofty principle of a day of decency, now turn around to say that principle no more realistic and that we should compromise. For us, their threat is just empty because I said they don't have any constitutional provision. What I had expected them to tell Abure is, Mr. Man, there is a pending appeal, a motion for stay of execution filed by their papa against the judgment of the Court of Appeal. But you see, they are trying to arrest the judgment of the Supreme Court, which they are aware that the appeal as motion for stay has been served on Abure. So the only locus, the only person that can challenge Abure function now is allegedly their papa. No any other person, NSC, TUC, trade union will be there. They don't have the constitutional power. Because those two people have been fighting for who is the chairman, who is not the chairman.
All right. Some will also say that at the heart of this argument is, NLC's agitation is a change of leadership. So one would expect that conventions are where leaders are elected, if I'm correct. Are there rules to holding conventions that are being broken in your view, or is everything supposed to happen at conventions?
No, what I would say, for us, we are not in support of the convention. because there is a judgment of the Court of Appeal that lifted the restraining order, upon which we have filed a stay and appeal before the Supreme Court. But like I said, I want to tell the whole world, NLC has no right to ask Abure not to do convention. They don't have the local standard to do that. They don't have the constitutional backing to do that, because they were together in this convention of 18. They planned everything together from the onset. But let me tell you the problem they have. They think Abure is not white. They made him to come and sign agreement with them while we went to court. They now agree that, oh, we are going to work together. And after the election, I will now leave the position. All of us will now go to convention. That was why they illegally supported all the legalities for that 1 year when the restraining order lasted. So why they are crying more than they believe, because they seem to be taking Panadol for the headache of Labour Party. So Nigeria must know that Joe Ajero has no locus, and there is nothing that is going to happen. What is going to happen is they need to wait for the judgment of the Supreme Court on who is the chairman of Labour Party. We are not supporting NLC, I get me, and we are not supporting Abure.
Abayomi, I think you've made your point. We thank you very much for speaking with us, and we're hopeful that the LP, Abure's faction, and maybe the NLC will use this platform and also speak on their side of things. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Still ahead, Senegalese want radical change after newcomer Faye wins. Find out more after the break. Good to know you're still with us. A day after anti-system newcomer Bassirou Diomaye Faye swept to a first-round victory, people in Senegal's capital, Dakar, say they want radical change after years of deadly unrest, economic stagnation, and a political crisis that has 1 in 3 of the country's roughly 7 million inhabitants living in poverty. Faye's main rival, the governing coalition Amadou Ba, considered defeat after failing to woo voters on a promise of continuing the status quo.
C'était une vote sanction. La cause, c'est que le gouvernement sortant a pris beaucoup de jeunes gens et les mettre dans les prisons pendant 9 mois pour des manifestations. Et le droit de manifester fait partie de la Constitution du Sénégal. C'est pourquoi, quand ils ont fait sortir les jeunes et ils ont dit qu'ils n'ont rien fait, alors ça a fait mal.
It's now time for business news. Let's switch over to our business desk.
Business news in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money.
Talking business tonight. In 2023, 7 Nigerian banks collectively earned 108.4 billion naira from electronic banking, marking a 23.60% increase compared to the 87.7 billion naira in 2022. This growth reflects the strong rise in cashless transactions within the country. The banks, including First Bank Holdings, Fidelity Bank, FCMB Group, Stanbic IBTC Holdings, Sterling Bank, Wema Bank, and Jaiz Bank, also saw a 35.6% increase in fees and commission income, totaling 482.04 billion naira. The increased revenue from electronic banking is attributed to the cash scarcity experienced in the first quarter, which prompted banks to enhance their IT infrastructure and leverage fintech products to facilitate transactions. Cashless payments in Nigeria reached 611.06 trillion naira in 2023, driven by the adoption of alternative channels and the withdrawal limits introduced by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Let's now tell you that Africa received $5.4 billion in venture capital and debt in 2023, according to the Venture Capital in Africa report by AVCA. The report provides insight into Africa's innovative ecosystem, highlighting the sub-regions, countries, and sectors driving venture capital activity. Global funding downturn, socio-political and economic upheaval led to a decrease in venture capital deals by 31% in Africa, with 545 deals in 2023 compared to 787 in 2022. The global venture capital ecosystem also experienced a decline, falling to $285 billion in deal valued from $690 billion in 2021. Currency volatility and high inflation in Africa prompted investors to prioritize established companies over new ventures. Despite the challenges, Africa continues to be a significant region for venture capital investments. And now to the Horn of Africa nation, Kenyan President William Ruto has set the goal of achieving a balanced budget for the East African economy by the end of his term, which would be the first time since a fiscal surplus was achieved 2 decades ago. Ruto, who took office in 2022, has been determined to turn the economy around and has proposed new taxes to increase government revenues, leading to protests and earning him the nickname Zakayo, the Swahili word for tax collector. He aims to raise the tax-to-GDP ratio from below 16% to 25% within a decade, in line with an International Monetary Fund program. Ruto emphasized the need to avoid accumulating further debt and called for spending cuts by state departments and corporations. And finally, Angola aims to increase oil production and develop the gas sector to meet its energy needs. The government is inviting investment in exploration and production, ensuring a competitive and stable environment. Angola's Secretary of State for Oil and Gas, Jose Barroso, highlighted the country's vision at the Ezewuike conference. Industry reforms and bid rounds offer investment opportunities, while regulatory flexibility and alternative agreements attract investors. Angola plans to leverage gas investments for industrialization and energy access. The Vision 2050 strategy focuses on diversification and long-term economic growth. Despite economic challenges, oil and gas production remain a priority, and Angola offers opportunities for investors across sectors with a pro-growth approach to unlock high returns. And that's it on Business News. We still have more stories to come your way. To stay with us, don't go away. I am Lekon Onabanjo.
Business News in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money. Sports Update, brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile.
And in sports, starting off with the Nigeria Premier Football League, Akwa United Football Club have confirmed the appointment of Mohamed Babaganaru as their new head coach. The experienced tactician has been tasked with the responsibility of saving the 2020-2021 league champions from relegation. Babaganaru will be in charge of the Promise Keepers for the first time against Doma United on Sunday in a March Day 28 encounter at the 10,000 capacity Eket Stadium. Mohamed Babaganaru is one of the most experienced coaches in the Nigeria football scene, having won the MPFL title back-to-back in 2011-2012 season and also the 2012-2013 season with Kano Pillars. He had previously worked with Nasarawa United, Wiki Tourist, Lobby Stars, and El Kanemi Warriors. And in golf, the second custodian golf classic built for Lakwe Lakes Golf Club is shaking up the golf calendar across the African continent. Top professional golfers from West Africa are signing up for the tournament, which takes place from Wednesday, 27th of March to Friday, the 29th in Lagos. According to the tour commissioner of the PGD Tour, the event has attracted top players from Nigeria and Ghana, the top professional golf countries in the region. On Lakpade Sunday, Francis Ekpe, Gift Willie, and Mike Ubi have registered for Nigeria while Kojo Bani, Amos Kobla, and Barry Yao lead Ghana's entry. Now, entries have also been received from Cote d'Ivoire and Cameroon. According to the sponsors, the prize money has been increased to 20 million naira to raise competition and also to make it more attractive as a Pan-African event. The maiden edition was won by Ghana's Vincent Toga at Ikoyi Club 1938 in Lagos after a three-way tie on the final day that included Gift Willie and Olakpade Sunday. Moving on to boxing now, Team Nigeria boxing coach Tony Konyegwachi has set his sights on the Paris Olympics podium after his boxers' impressive feat at the 13th African Games in Ghana. Out of 11 boxers who went to the Games under the coach, 10 won medals, with Nigeria claiming a total of 8 gold medals and 2 silver medals to finish overall winners in boxing for the third time after winning in 1973 in Lagos and 2003 in Abuja. The coach believes that the performance of his boxers in Accra has inspired belief in him ahead of the Olympic Games in France. Now, the coach also revealed that the performance of his boxing team was as a result of their hard work and dedication. Team Nigeria did end up matching and setting the record at the event by winning 8 gold medals, and Nigeria equaled Kenya's feat of scooping the same number of medals, talking about the gold medals, at the 1987 Games in Nairobi. Nigeria also set a new record of 10 boxers qualifying for the finals of the African Games boxing tournament. And talking about the African Games now, let's go straight to the aftermath of the Games. The conclusion of the 13th African Games led to a dramatic scene unfolding at the hostel, housing volunteers for the tournament as they engaged in a dispute with officials over their allowances. Now, the volunteers allege that officials have withheld their allowances of 2,000 Ghana cedi each, in addition to their promised transport fare of 500 Ghanaian cedi each. Now, they claimed that despite assurances from officials, they were ordered to vacate the hostels without receiving their due compensation. The volunteers were organized into various units such as transport, accreditation, accommodation, catering, and language liaison, among others. Notably, protocol and ceremonies volunteers, including flag bearers, placard bearers, and marshals, played significant roles during the opening ceremony. Quite a sad one there, and I hope they get to settle the volunteers very soon, because it was indeed a beautiful All-Africa Games that we experienced over there in Ghana, with Egypt finishing first and, of course, Nigeria finishing second on the medals table. And that's a wrap on Sports Updates. I am Udoka Njoko. Up next is entertainment with Jadel Simon.
Sports Update, brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile. Entertainment news in association with Glow Unlimited.
The president of the Actors Guild of Nigeria, Emeka Rollers, has dismissed the rumor over the demise of renowned Nollywood figure Zach Orji. Mr. Orji's health ordeal commenced in December 2023 after he collapsed at his residence, necessitating immediate medical attention and subsequent brain surgery. By January 2024, reports surfaced indicating that he was on the path to recovery at a private hospital in Abuja. The Actors Guild of Nigeria's president disclosed on his Instagram page that the news of Zach Orji's death is all false. And moving away from that, Nigerian artist Victony and Ghanaian sensation Black Sherif are gearing up to take center stage at the Africa Day celebration, spotlighting the continent's vibrant culture and economic potential. Scheduled for May 24, 2024 at the Novo in Los Angeles. The event promises a captivating blend of talents. Victony's Outlaw EP, with an impressive 200 million Spotify streams, features collaborations with Tizo and Tempo across 7 tracks. Recently, Victony captivated audiences at the University of California with his innovative rendition of Sunflower, originally sung by Swale and Post Malone. Meanwhile, Black Sherif celebrates a remarkable achievement with his album, The Villain I Never Was. surpassing 1 billion streams across various music platforms, marking a significant milestone in his career. And that's a wrap on entertainment tonight. Next is Trending when I'm back from this break.
Entertainment news in association with Glow Unlimited.
Now, moving away from entertainment news, Anambra is trending on social media. A video of some newly constructed roads in the state drew attention of social media users. It was said that one downpour washed off the road, particularly the road in Ochanja market area in Onitsha. The reaction came in different shapes and sizes. Let's take some reactions about this situation on X. Uncle Charles is saying, if you're from Anambra State, please don't wait till election time to collect your PVC. Now is the time to rectify any PVC issues you have and transfer your voting to Anambra State. There is an urgent need to make sure Soludo never returns. Then we have another tweet from Queen Mother. Pay attention to this tweet because there's a lot of sarcasm in it. She says, this is no way Soludo's fault. It is acid rain. Same thing happened in Imo State during Rochas Okorocha's term. Acid rain also happened in Abia during Okeze Ibazu. Please, let's continue to support Prof. Charlie. Then our last tweet from Uche saying, I drove from Oka 44 kilometers to Ochanja markets to see things myself this morning. I can confirm that the report is true. The traders are so disappointed. One told me that even the one built in Okpoko, where he lives, was washed off as well. That's it for tonight on What's Trending. Please join the conversation and share your thoughts across our social media platforms. We are at New Central TV. I'm Jadel Simon.
And that's all tonight. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. Nigeria's President Tinubu to attend burial of slain soldiers in Delta State. Army has freed over 300 detainees cleared of ties with Boko Haram. Nigeria's Monetary Policy Committee has raised interest rates to 24.75%. We also told you that Senegalese want radical change after newcomer Faye wins. Do send your eyewitness report to the number showing now on your screen, or you can follow us on social media. That's at New Central TV. We're live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good night.